Today, I will be providing you information on the topic of cash for keys or tenant buyout agreements for units that are subject to the rent stabilization ordinance. The information that will be provided is intended only for residential units located inside the boundaries of the city of LA, and not for commercial units, and not for properties that are located outside the boundaries of the city of LA. The way to know if the property you own is within the boundaries of the city is to determine who you pay the water and power bill to. If you pay it to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, then your property is located within the boundaries of the city of LA. If you pay it to a different company, such as Edison, for example, then that's an indication that you are not located within the city. And therefore, today's topic does not apply to you. Another way to confirm if the property is within the city, and also to confirm if the property is subject to the rules of the rent stabilization ordinance, is to look up the address in the website zimas.lacity.org. When you log on to that address, you will be able to enter your property's address and search if the status says yes RSO or no RSO. And there's an image of what you would see here on your page. Please note that if it indicates yes RSO, that means that at least one of the units at your property is subject to the RSO. The Rent Stabilization Ordinance was amended in 2017 to add the Tenant Buyout Notification Program. This program requires owners provide notice of RSO buyout rights to tenants prior to executing the buyout agreement. Both the notice and the agreement have to be filed with LAHD. And you see an image of the 2-page notice or the RSO disclosure on your screen. So what does the tenant buyout notification program cover? So this program applies to a written agreement where a landlord pays a tenant money or offers other consideration in order for the tenant to voluntarily move out of the RSO unit. So some examples of names that the public may be familiar with are buyout agreements, cash for keys, or voluntary vacate agreements. All three of these mean the same thing. All three of these are regulated by the RSO. The two main documents that are required in order to properly execute a buyout agreement with a tenant in an RSO unit are the RSO disclosure notice and the buyout agreement itself. Both of those documents have to be signed by both tenant and landlord, and the landlord is responsible for filing a copy of both of these documents with LHD within 60 days of the date that both parties signed the buyout agreement. The disclosure notice, the owner must use the disclosure notice that LHD provides, and we do have a link here that you could click on when you receive these slides to that disclosure notice. The landlord must give to the tenant this notice prior to executing the buyout agreement itself. The disclosure notice has to be dated and signed by both the tenant and the owner, keeping in mind that it's actually voluntary for the tenant to enter into this buyout agreement. And again, this disclosure notice has to be filed with our department within 60 days of signing the agreement. And this is the image of the disclosure notice that LHD has prepared for owners to utilize. This disclosure notice is available on our website in both English and Spanish. It summarizes the tenant rights. It provides contact information for the housing department. It provides information about the existing relocation amounts under the RSO. And please note that the parties are not required to agree to these amounts on the disclosure notice. The parties are free to negotiate any amount It could be above or below the amounts on this chart. This chart is simply to inform the parties of the relocation amounts that would be applicable if the tenant were to be evicted instead of agreeing to a voluntary vacate. The second required document is the buyout agreement itself. Under the municipal code, the buyout agreement must be written in the primary language of the tenant. It must be dated and signed by both the tenant and owner. And it must state in 12-point bold type above the tenant's signature that they may cancel the buyout agreement at any time up to 30 days after all parties have signed the agreement without any obligation or penalty. This agreement is signed concurrently with the RSO disclosure notice within 60 days or before after signing the buyout agreement. It's important for landlords to understand what the tenant rights are under this program. Number one, the tenant does not have to accept the buyout offer. The tenant can consult with an attorney or contact LAHD to ask questions about the program before signing any document. The tenants have a 30-day period where they can rescind the buyout agreement after they have signed it. If the owner does not comply with the requirements under the municipal code, instead of only having 30 days to rescind the agreement, the tenant will have an indefinite amount of time. In other words, they can change their mind on the very last day that they're supposed to move out, even if it's more than 30 days after they signed the agreement, if the owner didn't comply with the RSO requirements. And just to highlight what those requirements are, those are to file the disclosure notice and the buyout agreement with LAHD no later than 60 days after the agreement is signed. And to ensure that you have the agreement in the tenant's primary language that is signed by the parties, and that you have included the language about the tenant's right to cancel the agreement within 30 days. Additionally, failure to comply with the RSO requirements is a defense to an eviction case in court, or what is referred to as an unlawful detainer. And lastly, tenants do have a right of private civil action. They could take the owner to court for failure to comply with the municipal code when executing a buyout agreement. There is an additional consideration for owners whenever you are approaching a tenant to offer a buyout agreement. You have to keep in mind that you should ensure you're not committing any or you're not engaging in any behavior that could be viewed as harassment. So obviously something like threatening the tenant in order to get them to sign the agreement, threatening them with eviction or threatening them with not repairing their units. Those are pretty obvious examples of when a tenant could view this as harassment. And there are laws, city laws, that prohibit harassment whenever an owner is trying to engage in a buyout agreement with the tenant. I'm going to move on to how you can access information and specifically how you can file the 2 documents that are required to be filed with the department. And you can do that online. You can do that in person as well at any of our public counters. But the quickest and most efficient way to do it is using our online system. And so if you go to our main website, housing2.lacity.org, or even housing.lacity.org, you will see a list of services, including online services that you can click on. Once you're there, you'll see an assortment of different services that are provided online, including filing the disclosure notice and buyout agreement. And I've included some links here so you can directly access these services. Once you access the general list of online services, you'll be able to click on the buyout agreement system specifically, which is this link that I've included, the first link up here. We also have a step-by-step instruction manual that gives you instructions and with images of what you will be seeing in order to properly file your documents with LEHD. But I will go over some of the basic steps of online filing with you right now. First of all, it's important for the public to know that you can access any online services within the Department of Housing, but also with other departments throughout the city by creating an Angelino account. So if you go to the Angelino website, you can use your email address and create a password to create an account. And that way you will have one place where you will be able to see all of the services the city provides, including the services the housing department provides. When you access the LEHD tenant buyout services, the first screen you will see looks like this. It has a green button that says sign in with Angelino. That's the one you want to use. Once you sign on to the system, you will see a screen that will give you provide you a giant button that says file new buyout. You will click on that button, and that will open up a screen with several questions that the owner will have to answer. The first section is about tenant information, tenant name, address, email and telephone number if you know it, unit number, etc. If there are multiple tenants, there is actually a co-tenant section as well with the same categories of information that you can enter. There is an owner information section where you would enter the owner's contact information and name. You would also enter the information about the agreement itself, such as the date that the disclosure notice is signed, the date the agreement is signed by both parties, the vacate date, the earliest possible vacate date. It'll also ask you if the agreement has the cancellation language that is required. It will ask you if rent credit is part of the compensation, and that's a basic yes or no answer. What language is the buyout agreement in, and what's the maximum amount of compensation that is being offered or that was offered to the tenant. Then it will provide you the options to upload both the disclosure notice and the buyout agreement. And to upload the documents, you just click on the box right here. You click on it once, and it will highlight it blue with a check mark. It will insert an upload button. You click on the upload button, and then you select which document to upload to the system, which in this case would be the disclosure notice and the buyout agreement separately. Once you have answered all of the questions and uploaded both of the documents, the system will allow you to submit the filing. And in the example you see on your screen, there's a blue Save as Draft button, which you could use if you're not ready to submit yet and you want to come back to it the next day. Or if you're done with the filing, it will highlight the button Submit in blue, and then you just click that button to finalize your filing online. And you will get a confirmation immediately when you submit. It will give you a message here in the green banner confirming that you completed the filing. Additionally, it gives you the application number right here, TB with a number, and the status. The status should be filed. If the status is anything other than filed, that means you have not completed the filing. If you're still not sure if you filed successfully the documents, you can actually go, you can navigate to the top of your page where it says My Tenant Buyout Filings. And it will open up a page where it will give you three options. Number 1, file a new buyout. Number 2, a list of incomplete tenant buyouts. So if you initiated it, but you didn't click submit, or you didn't finish answering the questions, there will be a list here of which ones are not completed. And then you'll be able to just click on it and finish it. If you've submitted and you completed all your filings, you will have a third table here titled Filed Tenant Buyout Submissions. And it will give you the file name or the case name, the status of filed, and there's an additional feature that's very important for owners. There's a compliant button. If your buyout agreement complies with the municipal code based on the answers that you provided in the portal, it will insert a green compliant button. And that's how you know that your filing complies with the law. If it does not comply, it will be a red non-compliant button. Of course, this depends completely on the answers the owner provides in the data portal. If you have questions in the future about this topic or any topic, you can actually go to our Ask Housing app at the link that I've indicated here on this page and submit a question. When you click on the Submit Question button, you're going to see a form that will ask you specifics about the topic and the question that you have. And we'll ask you, of course, your contact information, your email address, the property address. And then you click the button Submit, and it sends out an email notification to various people at the department who will review your question and respond to you via an email. You can also subscribe to the LHD newsletter for any updates to the law by going to this link that's on this page here, or on any of our web pages. At the very bottom of every LHD page, you will see a subscribe to our newsletter feature or button. If you click on that, you'll be able to sign up for our newsletter. And I certainly for landlords, this is something I would recommend you do, as there are constantly changes to the law. You can contact our department at any time by calling our general hotline, sending us a question at the Ask Housing app, signing up for future workshops and future topics, and signing up for our newsletter. So that concludes the presentation for today's topic.